Hi all, I'm Red. Now stick with me today as we answer the question, Vanquish, the Platinum's Games classic, is it any fun to play? You know, there's something so incredibly comfy and fun about the 360 and PS3 era that brings us so many classics we know and love. It felt like an era when developers were really pushing their envelope in regards to creativity, their gameplay mechanics, and their visual style. Now I thought to myself, there really is no better place to start with that era than the legendary Vanquish. Vanquish was developed by Platinum Games from 2007 to 2010. Something cool I didn't know until making this video is that the legendary Shinji Mikami, one of the minds behind the iconic Resident Evil 4, was at the helm during Vanquish's production. Mikami-san and his team brought to the table some flavor from the bullet hell genre and a little beat 'em up style thrown in for good measure, adding a real refreshing energy to the third-person shooter genre at the time. Now the game opens with a very Iron Man-esque suiting up scene where we're introduced to our hero Sam. A short tutorial follows at his home base DARPA, some shooting and cover controls, taking cover, and the implementation of the iconic Vanquish power slide, and what the game calls AR mode, but it's basically just good old-fashioned bullet time. Then it hard cuts to a nearby city in the States as a massive laser wipes out half of the city, which at first appears to be just a laser attack, but quickly turns chemical, leaving people very sick and very dead. We cut to the leader of the faction, the Russian star Viktor Zaitsev, as he takes responsibility for the atrocity and brings out the classic "surrender now or face the consequences," as we see the American response, which promises a swift retaliation. In the very next scene, we're aboard a US space frigate engaging in a Star Wars-sized space battle. Now damn, this game is cool, as we meet the commander of our buddies on this adventure, the Marines Lieutenant Colonel Robert Burns, a whiskey-drinking, gravelly-voiced American hard-ass. Watching these cutscenes, they have a high production value and everything is so stylish and really lovingly crafted. Burns and Sam quickly have it out before launch because Burns doesn't allow smoking on his ship. Our landing craft crash lands on the colony and we get into our own little space Normandy. Chaotic gunfire everywhere, getting absolutely melted by machine guns. Off the rip, the game is intense, chaotic, which is why I'm here. Sam's first task is to deal with the blockade by using Sam's legendary power slide to flank that pesky position, letting more of our buddies land. Now as we make our way into the facility dealing with hordes of enemies, I get checked immediately, as despite the fodder enemies being these little red guys, they can take you out, so make sure to keep on sliding. More fights and more progress. We come to our first boss fight against the Argus mech, a crawler with a big cannon on its head that quickly transforms into a standy boy and is slightly more dangerous. The straightforwardness of the first boss fight is really good design, teaching the player about targeting weak spots while also showing off some of the game's wow factor with its crazy scale. The Argus mech's second phase, once standing, is slightly tougher as it spews out more damaging lasers and his arms are now a threat. Therefore the game really pushes you to target weak points, because once a limb is destroyed, it stays out for good, weakening the boss overall. One of the many benefits of having mechanized bosses. After we take down that very angry standy boy, we come to a nearby refinery dealing with swarms of more photo robots, as we now have to clear either bank of things, deciding that they feel like shooting at us to make some good old-fashioned progress. Now another great example of the game's spectacle heightening the overall experience, the group of your own Marines fighting for their lives against the swarms of enemies fighting you, really is something to see. Now after that little stopover, we come across some of Burns' Marines being held and tortured. So Sam, being the class act that he is, volunteers to rescue them. Sam's bravery really is starting to win over old mate Burns. After releasing the chains on our bodies, we get into another few chaotic gunfights with the robots. A few more fights in the industrial sector, and the squad and Burns are quickly overwhelmed by the amount of robots chasing after them. One man gets left behind, so between Sam's bravado and Burns' minigun, we save the squad and manage to escape. But this isn't the end. Once we come to a clearing, Burns and Sam split up. Burns gives Sam to squad, while Burns covers them from up top. But once we make our way into the causeway, we realize that we're in a rather tight spot. We've got machine gunners up high and enemies down low. Now using our old pal Sam's power slide to stay ahead of the game in gunfire, but all that chaos and glory can't last forever. Now after we clear out the causeway, our day is ruined by a very gnarly looking tank. This thing brings in a squad of machine gunners and is serious business. It sports a massive turret on its top and some saw blades in the front. Really makes an impression. I take my first death of the run from its menacing aura. No zero deaths run for me after all this. This big bastard appears tricky and he sure looks it, but if you can manage to stay ahead of it and hit its suspiciously growing red engines in the rear and not die, I think you'll be okay. To take a break from the action for a moment, Vanquish is a fine example of good art design and style can really make games look good well past their prime. The cool over-the-top art style and design of absolutely everything in this world, down to the environmental effects, and it's just the overarching vibe is truly fantastic. Now back to reality, and there goes gravity. The squad now need to escort a friendly APC through a very dark tunnel. This journey won't be an easy one though, as we come up against your classic exploding Russia enemies that remind me of a large brain out of the ground and shred our APC from earlier. Therefore, it is safe to conclude that those pesky robots really are trying to kill us. Now before we get a chance to catch up with our buddy Zaitsev, the main villain of this harrowing tale emerges and wants to 1v1 Sam. Now Zaitsev is your standard flying mech boss. Does a lot of cool laser attacks, but if you can stay ahead of him, he's not too dangerous. Sam makes quick work of Zaitsev, who flees into the nether. After Zaitsev's defeat, we triumphantly emerge into an ambush by a new enemy mech that tries its damnedest to provide cover for its allies, which caught me off guard the first time because they make for really good ambush fuel. The Russians are really throwing the kitchen sink at us. But once we've cleared out that mob, we're into a goods processing kind of area, full of materials and machines moving about. We get involved in a pretty fun and chaotic fight along the machines' conveyor belts, having to juggle swarms of machines and not getting trapped in the ever so fatal scanning fields that are a one-shot kill. Luckily for them, Sam and the Marines are no slouches, so they make their way quickly to their escape and a freight elevator. The freight elevator sequence is very fun and very stylized. The squad and Sam are now having to deal with hordes of flying enemies, holding off drones and dropship after dropship. As we pass the gorgeous city by at very high speeds, which transitions into a quote from the legendary pilot Pete Maverick Mitchell, "I was inverted." Upside down, we shoot it out with a band of pursuing enemy robots, weaving up and down, side to side, which keeps the fight very unpredictable and very fun. But it wouldn't be a true video game vehicle level without the aforementioned vehicle crashing. The Marines and Sam are stuck in their damaged elevator holding off swarms of enemies, but Sam has a solid idea to take the fight to the bots. So we hijack a dropship and go on the attack, chasing down all these pesky dropships who have up until this point been a real nuisance for the squad. So it's quite satisfying to get some good old-fashioned payback. But Sam's one-man war isn't effective enough to save Burns, and his dropship goes down. Now Sam, taken aback with the loss of Burns, rides his dropship into a nearby tunnel. Helena, Sam's liaison with DARPA, codes the dropship's guns to work with Sam's targeting, giving Sam that much-needed firepower to deal with the pursuing Argus mechs and giving himself just enough time for a nice little smoke break. Once Sam has had his fill of merry-go rides, we link up with the survivors of Burns' crashed dropship and now have to deal with you heard that right, two Argus mechs this time around. They must really think Sam likes his punishment. The following fight is true chaos. One mech goes for you while your body's tangled with the other. The mechs are putting the pressure on this time, more sweeping attacks and just being more of a threat overall. But Sam isn't afraid of a few lasers when he has the power of God and power sliding on his side. Now we take down the first mech in a very OG God of War inspired QTE sequence, which ends with Sam literally turning into a human drill and turning that Argus mech into scrap. Made me think of Beyblades for some reason. That deadly spin. Now onto the second one, more of the same. Sam absolutely goes beast mode and knocks the thing's heads off. Badass, man. Badass. Therefore, once we clear out the arena of all its giant mech related threats, we get a break from the action. As we and the squad take the freight elevator up, catching our breath, we emerge into an industrial sector of sorts and have to head off to back up our marine buddies as they're in the shit and need some good old-fashioned support. But like all good adventures, we're out of one hell and into another. The Marines and Sam now need to go Cyberpunk D-Day Round 2, as we need to full frontally assault some concrete pillboxes and enemy machine guns, dealing with all kinds of craziness, fire from all sides, explosions everywhere. This fight is a tense one. Even with Sam's slick moves, I only just managed to survive. Once we've taken those first few rounds of pillboxes and make our way further up the slope, we get into yet another wall of machine guns and pillboxes. Those bloody robots really don't let up. But before we can leave this hellish nightmare, we need to blow up a blockade so Sam and the boys can make their escape. What is the next stop for us on this journey, you may ask? Well, we need to take over a nearby radio jamming station, coming face to face with a new and deadly enemy, an axe-carrying mech that occasionally larps as a scorpion. This thing is quite the challenge, if you don't mind me saying. It likes to get up close and personal in melee and is very dangerous. If you can keep it at range where it becomes your standard heavy machine gun enemy, makes it a lot less of a punish. Therefore, once we defeat the mech with an axe problem, while almost running out of ammo, Sam and his team are well deserving of a respite, but will receive none here, as it's out of yet another frying pan and into another fire. The boys need to deal with some aggressive AA guns knocking their reinforcements out of the sky. We really do need to hammer those AA guns, allowing more of our boys to land. Once all that's done and dusted, the Russians throw a new series of Romanov mechs at us. Imposing mechs with drills for hands, who are quite a pain in melee, and yeet their drills at you at range, putting your dodging skills to the test. Managing to push through these dangerous drillers, we now need to cover a dropship, so it can clear us a path across a nearby ravine. But in true Vanquish fashion, clear one section and immediately get ambushed in the next. This time by a new threat, a massive burrowing drop pod that can saw its way through whatever's in their path, making them as unpredictable as they are dangerous. But the chaos of this section isn't over yet, as we go toe to toe with yet another tank. Usual fanfare here, tanks are very deadly from anywhere but the back, so keep on sliding, moving, and you'll be okay. Therefore, upon sending yet another mechanized death machine to the scrap heap, we get absolutely wrecked by a small city-sized ship as it smokes our position and casually keeps on flying by. Chasing down that very large ship from just a moment ago, its big laser attacks happen to hit the bridge that we're standing on, so it's time to run for it, as the game treats us to yet another very cool set piece as the bridge twists and turns wildly as it slowly crumbles beneath our feet. The Marines and Sam desperately make a run for it across the doomed bridge, but not before taking all kinds of enemy fire, as the robots try to slow us down just enough so the bridge will do their job for them. Therefore, once you prove to those pesky robots that we can't be beaten, we cannot in fact be stopped, we get a nice little breather as we hop on a nearby monorail and chase down the mammoth flying monster from earlier. But this next section of the city isn't like the others. We face down an arsenal of turrets and searchlights, so we need to stealthily use the silent sniper rifle to carefully one by one take down each light so that they pick up on our monorail, and it saves us from eating a real missile sandwich. Another stellar section design wise, as not only are you dealing with the very dangerous threat of a large amount of noise activated turrets, you and the boys currently face down, but now a dropship that flies in and threatens to spoil your fun. So you do the only thing you can, which is take it out before it gives you up. But one thing those pesky robots didn't know is that Sam is as good at stealth as his combat, so we managed to make it past the family of turrets. But before we're home free, we have to deal with a little ambush and set an explosive solution to our problem of blocked tracks. Dealing with our little blockage problem and back onto the floating fortress's trail, the bots don't let us off easy, as we now need to shoot down a massive one-eyed laser looking mech, but all that metal doesn't last long against good old-fashioned machine gun fire. After that joyride and shootout, the flying fortress we're chasing from earlier lands and turns into a city-sized tank and starts going on the march. Seeing a threat so large, even Sam knows he can't 1v1 it and win, so we now need to cover some friendly APCs while they punch a hole for Sam to do his thing and sneak on inside. But this is no easy feat, as the Argus tanks from earlier come thick and fast after your allied APCs, making for one very close call, closely followed up by one very punched hole armor. But that isn't all. We are too far away of a distance from the hole we just made, so Sam needs to escort some engineers to get them close enough to shoot Sam inside with their cable guns. The flying fortress's defenses are no fucking joke. As we make our way along its underbelly with the team, we must now fight through approximately 400 very trigger happy mechs, all while dealing with its absolutely monstrously large feet crushing everything in their path, and also having to contend with the ship's heater producers, making sure Sam needs to stick to cover or wind up as barbecued sausage. But a small army and some superheated air later isn't enough to stop good old Sam. He manages to cover the engineers who can safely get Sam inside. Sam, now successfully into the belly of the beast, must make like any good infiltrator and sneak in quietly, passing through mech patrols and a mysterious bot full of arms and legs as we make our way through the underbelly, feeling like the unknown mech is really stalking us. Clearing out that section, we come upon an unusual sight. A group of robots that are Michael Jackson dancing. Is there robots that act as barricade buddies from earlier provide the speakers. Now, even in a time of war, these bots aren't afraid to break down, and I really do respect that. That, and going from the chaos to the tense to the silent to the boogie nights, made the last few levels feel like a real roller coaster. But because this is in fact a war and not a dance contest, I'm forced to dispatch the dancing robots, and we quickly get set upon by our unknown stalker from earlier. The boss is literally called the Unknown, and in a funny and creative way, it first appears as a big, imposing, mechanized figure. It likes to fully extend, stand tall, and fight its cacophony of lasers from its many arms, and has a one-shot melee attack which can shred right through. But after giving the Unknown a 556 sandwich and all the exterior pieces fall away, to reveal a very tiny droid at the center of this mess of parts, which in a kind of funny way runs after his lost bits like someone who's lost some clothing. And once you've damaged the droid enough to get him to that state, he is vulnerable and he's frantically chasing down the other bits and pieces of himself to get back into the fight. Once you make the Unknown known, Sam emerges on the top deck of the beast. We emerge into more frantic chaos. As we make our way up further towards the main cannon, we see friendly dropships getting into dogfights with enemy dropships, all while flying in and out and providing loose cover for us as we cut a path through swaths of bots that are guarding the central gun platform. But now before we can get an oh so satisfactorily takedown of this monster, the Unknown is back for a second round, giving us more of the same action as before. But I discover something new. You can spam EMP grenades in the fight and absolutely cheese it and make use of our big brain strats to take us finally to the gun deck and put a stop to this terrible tyrant. Sam needs to decouple the massive power cable to a central gun and escape via his old buddy Burns. But because easy is overrated, they crash land in the nearby forest after riding the shockwave of the explosion from the destruction of that massive ship/tank beast from much earlier. The boys now entering space Vietnam as we head for a dam, but have to contend with robots hiding and ambushing us in tall grass along the way, making a rather mundane section be all the more fun, as you're not dealing with just robots but armored robots that are also jumping out at you and full sprinting at you seemingly out of nowhere, making even the fodder enemies seem far more dangerous whenever they're unpredictable. Now after Burns lives up to his reputation and sacrifices more men for the cause, we emerge onto a bridge and another blockade with a buzzard mech thrown in for our troubles. But again, our old friend Mr. EMP Grenade and Sam's love of power sliding absolutely fucking cheese this boss, but we don't get a break yet as we go toe to toe in the very next area with two of those axe/scorpion mechs from earlier. A properly tough fight as one of them shoots at you while the other one chases you down. The game, although I have died up until this point, just mistakes me for needing to get good. Really feels like it's starting to push my buttons now, turning up the challenge with enemies that pose a real threat and a real challenge. Now as soon as those two terrors are taken down, onto another bombed out area and another serious ambush packed to the brim with snipers and a fucking tank. This fight is yet another tough one, as to survive you've got to keep moving and hit the snipers as soon as they spawn, or you'll be in for one hell of a bad time. But Sam, ever the unlucky one, emerges into a burning refinery as the robots make one more desperate attempt to stop him and his boys. They decide to set the whole refinery alight. Again, another great area. You feel the desperation of the robots as they throw themselves at you, while you and the lads need to not die from the fires, but also not let the high and lower enemies get the drop on you. Truly great verticality in the refinery. I enjoyed having to watch my angles as well as high and low. Now, as if this whole area can't get any spicier, we get attacked by the Silver Surfer's evil cousin, the Assassin. A mech with a shiny chrome exterior that has a two-shot melee and can stealth, and has a real passion for sprinting at you at full speed. Killing the shiny bastard sends a shockwave through the whole colony, and Sam and his team now have to head down towards the central control room to fix the issues. Another new area and some more cool design, just like the tram from earlier being inverted as we approach the control core. For the colony, we get in a little hallway shootout with robots as the whole chamber spins in 0G. Another cool little detail for this area, once Sam fires off his weapons, your casings will hang around for a while in the air for a nice little visual flourish. As our heroes and Sam, very burnt out from their hellish journey, finally get to the control room, they once again have it out with Bones over being far too comfortable with leaving men behind. As in order to stop the colony from taking any more damage, they need to seal off their chamber before they can do what they need. Bones giving quips about men over mission, and Sam actually giving a shit, takes what's left of the Marines forward while Burns hangs in the rear. After Sam and his boys leave the area, we get a glimpse into what Burns is up to, as that cheeky fucker is doing secret deals with the president, sacrificing his own men to add to the cost of the whole expedition to help their case for war and economic prosperity. Further along, Sam and the Marines run into some real trouble. A couple of laser turrets are blocking their way toward the control area, killing anyone who's brazen enough to approach. Now Sam, being the absolute Chad that he is, chases the turrets down and takes them out so his men can get on through to the other side. But this isn't the end of the road for Sam and the Marines, as making it deeper into the facility, we come to the real guts of the control room and are ambushed by another Silver Surfer wannabe in the tight quarters of the control area, making him far more dangerous. We know once again that Sam is a true force of nature as he knocks that next surfer off his board, and we come to the main room to find Sam's kidnapped buddy Professor Candide working with the cheeky Russians, and our old pal Burns finally catches up to us and stabs Sam in the back. Burns now backed up by not his Marines but far more deadly mercenaries, and we come to the toughest section of the game. Burns and his new mates are very deadly. They use EMP grenades on you, opening Sam up to be one shot if Burns doesn't steamroll you first. I died several times here as thanks to the super tough enemies and Burns being a literal walking tank that ends with his final stand in the control room. But a grief-stricken Burns turns back to Sam's side at the very last minute, leaving Sam to go after Zaitsev and do what's needed. Burns sacrifices himself to buy Sam a little needed time, as the mercenaries from earlier are hot on his tail. Sam, exhausted, beaten and betrayed, now stands in front of the final challenge. Zaitsev times 2. All the usual bad guy smack talk, and it's time to get busy. Zaitsev is similar to his early iteration, flying enemy with lots of solid range attacks, but he isn't Burns, so this fight is far less savage than the one before. Zaitsev, not wanting to put real skin in the game, reveals that the 2 copies of himself Sam just defeated were in fact drones, and that cheeky fucker loaded them both with nukes to destroy the station. Sam, now in a desperate race to freedom, needs to make it back to Helena and out before being turned into paste by those thermonuclear toasters. The bombs go off and no Sam. Helena, the heartbroken, but at the very last second, Sam emerges and Helena and him head on home. So to answer the question from earlier, Vanquish, is it fun to play? My answer is a firm and resounding yes. The gameplay is wild, chaotic and fun. The visual style and all-over presentation are timeless. Sam's suit powers are slick and responsive and give you just enough of an edge in combat without trivializing it. Aside from some mild frustration at the Burns boss fight being so damn spongy, I had an absolute blast and I know that you will too. Thanks for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Now don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.